Have you ever thought why is a quiz important for your preparation of exam? A, it is important because UPSC prelims is designed in a way where quiz plays an important role. And secondly, it's one of the best way to prepare for your exams. Hello everyone, I am Manas Srivastava. Welcome to UPSC Essentials Live of the Indian Express. We are back and we are back with a quiz. Yes, this segment talks about quiz, and the second segment in the same video will take up a very important case study which will inspire you to be an IAS officer. So let's start. Get set, go. The first question of the UPSC quiz today is, with reference to Mangrove Alliance for Climate, consider the following statements. The first statement here is, it is an initiative led by UAE or United Arab Emirates and Indonesia. The Mangrove Alliance of Climate, which is MAC, includes India, Sri Lanka, Australia, Japan and South Korea. Long statement, but requires a lot of information. The second statement here is, it seeks to educate and spread awareness worldwide on the role of mangroves in curbing global warming and its potential as a solution for climate change. Now, as you see, the first statement basically talk about who is there included in this alliance, whereas the second statement is about what does this MAC do. Now look at the options. Which of the following statement is or are incorrect? Again, pay attention to the word incorrect. A, 1 only. B, 2 only. C, both 1 and 2 statements are incorrect. And D, neither 1 nor 2. So this statement or this question is about Mangrove Alliance for Climate, which is MAC. Not a very old news. It is basically previous year news, एक साल पहले की है, and as you know that exam में 1.5 साल तक की current affairs जो होता है वो काफी relevant होता है. So in the quiz, what we will try to do is that we bring up some topics from the past year also, so that it will help you for a quick revision. Okay, so this is a question on Mangrove Alliance for Climate. And you have 4 options. Remember, the question is asking which of the statements are incorrect. Now, I think you must have guessed the answer. So the best way is that you go to the comment box, write your answer after seeing this question, write your option, whichever you feel is incorrect here, and maybe the correct one in the next question. And then we will go to the solution slide. So if I come to the solution slide here, answer is A, that is statement 1 is incorrect. I'll just go back to the question and let's see what was the statement 1. So the answer is that the first statement is incorrect. Now look at the first statement carefully. An initiative led by UAE and Indonesia, the Mangrove Alliance for Climate or MAC, includes India, Sri Lanka, Australia, Japan and South Korea. Now that means this question is testing you on your factual knowledge. So if you know the facts, the question is clear. अगर जरा सी भी कोई चूक है, then of course the factual question you are not able to answer. So the first statement is incorrect. Now we need to know why is it incorrect. Of course, कुछ countries का हेर बदल है यहाँ पे. There is one particular or 2 countries which are not correct in the question. So you need to know that it is an initiative which is led by UAE and Indonesia, and it is known as MAC, the Mangrove Alliance for Climate. The second important part is that it includes India, Sri Lanka, Australia, Japan and Spain. Now see, the most lot of people will not think about whether Spain is there or not. So there was a twist. So definitely it's a factual question. You need to get your facts right. और इसका जो third point which you should know कि इसका aim क्या है? It seeks to educate and spread awareness worldwide on the role of mangroves in curbing global warming. So it's a straightforward aim. अगर आपको पता है कि मैग का फुल फॉर्म इज रिलेटेड टू मैंग्रोव, तो डेफिनेटली or the third point or the second statement in the question you would know. So this was about MAG. Now see, there is a reason why we use certain pictures in our slides. Obviously the slides looks a little bit more presentable, but also the picturesque memory stays with you. Okay, now when you know that the Honorable Minister of Environment is speaking, okay, he is speaking from the platform of MAG. So you would know that, okay, India is also a member. Not only that, because he has gone to a global platform to speak about, some kind of alliance, that means it is important for the country. And thus it becomes important for your civil services preparation, for your competitive exams. So the COP27, last year's UN Climate Summit, MAC was launched with India as a partner. India holds, and that is why it is important, so you should know these 2 points. India holds around 3% of South Asia's mangrove population. And beside this, Sundarbans in West Bengal, Andaman region, the Kutch and Jamnagar areas in Gujarat have substantial mangrove cover. So you see, there is some self-interest of India in this alliance, and that is because that so much of mangrove coverage is there. So when we go back to the question, and now if you see why this question was designed or how it is designed, you would know that the first statement, you don't need to have South Korea there, instead there should be Spain, and the second statement is correct. So the incorrect statement as asked in the question is one only. Now coming to the next question, and it's going to be question related to polity. So we've covered one question which is related to environment, ecology and international relations because it is an alliance. Now we come to the question which is related to polity, which is election commission. And election commission has been in so much news. Sometimes you might find that institution in controversial news, but controversies have to be kept aside. The politics have to be kept aside. Between the lines, there are certain facts. There's certain historical importance which is important related to the constitutional body. So with reference to the Election Commission of India, consider the following statement. So Election Commission के संदर्भ में ये प्रश्न है. The first statement is, from the beginning, the Election Commission of India was a multi-member body. That is, एकदम शुरुआत से, जब से Election Commission का एक idea execute हुआ है into a body, it was a multi-member body. So you should know whether it's a multi-member body now or not. And of course it is. It's a very common fact. The second is, Article 324, Clause 2 of the Constitution fixes the size of the Election Commission. Very straightforward factual question about an important article. And this article is not just from the heaven that is, this question is formed. It must have been in news. That's why the statement is there. The third statement is, the chief election commissioners and the other election commissioners enjoy the same status and receive salary and perks as judges of the Supreme Court of India. So these are certain basic things which you should know about election commission when you are studying, and I'm sure you know it. But when it comes in the form of question, आपको लगता है कि इसमें क्या गलत है, क्या सही है, तो वो एक संदेह वाली बात आ जाती है. But let's see what is the question. Now here, the question is particularly how many statements mentioned above are correct. Now look at the question. It is not asking you which statement is correct and which is incorrect. It is a little step forward. It is asking how many statements in the above question are correct. So only one statement is correct, B, only two statements are correct, or any or all the three statements are correct, or D, none of the statements are correct. So you need to know about every statement, whether it's correct or not. Only then you will be able to do the maths ki ek question, ek statement sahi hai, ki do statements sahi hai, ki तीनों sahi hai. So this is how, you might be thinking that it's an easy question. If you have done with your factual, it will be always right. But sometimes option में कुछ खेल हो जाता है. They need to check your presence of mind during the time of examination. So the answer here is only one statement, that is statement 3 is correct. So the correct answer is, if I go back to the question, that the only one statement is correct. And which of the statement is correct? The statement which is correct is Statement 3. And the Statement 3 is the Chief Election Commissions and other election commission enjoy the same status and receive salary and perks as judges of the Supreme Court of India. That means the first two statements are incorrect. So let's go in little depth to know about this particular topic. I know we can't cover the entire election commission and the issues related to it, but we'll see as per the question we can talk about a few things, clarify a few facts for our understanding. जैसे कि ये कि how is a chief election commissioner appointed, or election commissioners are appointed. So the CEC, which is the chief election commissioner, and the ECs are appointed by the president to a tenure of 6 years. So 6 साल के लिए president द्वारा appointment किया जाता है और up to the age of 65 years. So जो पहले या तो 65 years आ जाए या तो 6 years का tenure. So whatever comes first उसके हिसाब से retirement हो जाती है. Whichever is earlier. They enjoy the same status and receive salary and perks as per the judges of the Supreme Court of India. So that statement was anyways correct. Now this article is important. Article 324, the powers of the CEC or the Election Commission is there in Article 324 of the Constitution, which says superintendence, direction and control of elections to be vested in the Election Commission. So Election Commission in a way is a serva when it comes to your conducting the superintendence, direction and the control of elections. Then we briefly talk about the size of the Election Commission. So the Constitution does not fix the size of the Election Commission. So the Constitution does not tell us that what should be the size of the Commission. What does it say? The Article 324 clause 2 says that, and I've taken the quote exactly, the Election Commission shall consist of the Chief Election Commissioner and such number of other election commissioners, if any, as the President may from time to time fix. तो ये आर्टिकल में ये कहीं नहीं बताया जा रहा है कि 3 इलेक्शन कमिश्नर्स होंगे जिसमें से एक चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर होगा. It says कि the president from time to time can fix the number of election commissioner or the members of the body of the election commissioner. But there is no clarity कि what is going to be the fixed size of the Election Commission of India. Remember this article 324 clause 2. Now, going deep into a little bit of history, you should know how the Election Commission, how the numbers of the election commissioners played important role in the history of the Election Commission. So a little bit about it, that from the beginning, the Election Commission of India consisted just the Chief Election Commissioner. Now, if you remember the question, the first statement said that from the very beginning, it was a multi-body. Okay, that is wrong because in the beginning, it had only one, the Chief Election Commissioner. But the change came actually in 1989. And just to remember that this is the time of Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi when he appointed 2 more election commissioners. However, there was a controversy after which where a lot of opposition said that it was an election year and just before that this kind of change was done. But anyways, what is important for us to know is that in the beginning, Election Commission was not a multi-member body and there were changes only in 1989. On January 2, 1990, the National Front government of the Prime Minister VP Singh amended the rules, making the EC again a single member body. So just after the Rajiv Gandhi government, when the new government came, it again became a single member body. So ऐसा भी नहीं है कि एक ही बार change हुआ. Change होता रहा है Election Commission की body में. However, on October 1, 1993, the government of Prime Minister Narasimha Rao promulgated an ordinance to provide for the appointment of 2 more election commissioners. So again, there was a change. So pehle it was single, there was just 1 election commissioner. Then there was a change. Rajiv Gandhi brought it made a multi-member body. Then again a change during the time of VP Singh, and then finally Narasimha Rao. So you see, it has not been the same member body in the beginning. Now, a little bit more regarding the third statement in the question. The EC has had 3 members ever since. The ordinance was subsequently replaced by the CEC. Okay, so this is the same continuation of what we were just studying, that there has always been a change, and then there came an ordinance, then there was an amendment. All three election commissions have equal say in the decision making of the commission. So though there is a chief election commissioner, but there is an equal say in the decision making. Now, keeping that a little aside, the question which we have just discussed, I thought it is relevant to talk about, or to just give you a thought about the recent things which are happening in the election commission, which is a lot in news, which is about the migrant voters. Now, I want you to think about it, to go back to your current affairs, to go back to the newspaper or the articles of the Indian Express, the explained section of the Indian Express, where this particular topic was discussed, and try to incorporate it in your notes. The question was, what is the recent initiative of the election commission regarding the migrant voters? So migrant voters के संदर्भ में election commission का एक recent initiative है, वो क्या है, वो क्यों है, and you can also give your critical opinion about it, or how can it be improved, what will be its significance, how will it be relevant. All these aspects you would get to know from the explained article of the Indian Express. So this is a point to ponder regarding this particular question. Now let's go to question number 3. Now if you see this question, this is a personality based question. Somebody in news, so person in news. And often we think that UPSC might ask us very hi-fi questions, or very questions which are very advanced, which requires a lot of analytical capabilities. But it's often not true. Sometimes it asks very direct questions. Okay, you might have ignored it while studying because you think that UPSC is the toughest exam of the country, so the toughest questions will be formed, which might not be true. The toughness of the exam is not about the question. It's about the competition. It's about the level of preparation. It's about the presence of mind. And therefore, this question, seen in the news last year, Purnima Devi Burman is. So who is Purnima Devi Burman? And there is nothing great about the options. The options look so common. If you know Purnima Devi Burman, it will be a click. So for example, A, Guinness World Record holding mountaineer. B, is she a classical dancer? C, is she a wildlife biologist? Or D, a world-renowned economist? Okay. So sometimes options are also made in a way so that you think that the most appealing option can be your answer. But sometimes the most unappealing, something which is very common, may be your answer. So if you know who is Purnima Devi Burman, you can comment in your box below. Let's understand this. Let's understand this. How do you relate this? Okay. Now, when you come to the answer, you would understand that why this person becomes so important. All right. So let's know who is Purnima Devi Burman. So Purnima Devi Burman was recently awarded Champions of the Earth Award in the Entrepreneurial Vision category of the UN's highest environmental honor. Now this is something very big. Environment is definitely in a lot of news. There have been a lot of environmental activists, but at the same time there are people who, because of their scientific temper, are trying to bring some change in the environment. And this is how United Nations has recognized one such Indian woman. And her name is Dr. Purnima Devi Burman. And by awarding her the Champions of the Earth Award, she is the founder of Hargila Army and Senior Project Manager of Avifauna Research and Conservation Division of Aranak. So you see, obviously she's a biologist and she's an expert in it, but she is trying to convert her, to benefit through her skills, through her learnings, through her research, and she's trying to pass on that benefit to the world. Okay, and so therefore this lady becomes important for our examination. You should know about her. So the Champions of Earth is an appreciation for innovative ways implemented by the awardees across the world to support nature's extraordinary capacity for renewal. So this is an important award, but it's only when an Indian gets an award that you recognize, oh, ऐसा भी कोई award है. But this is an important award, and therefore you should know, you should link this award to the personality in news, and it will always remain on your mind. Also, I think that such an example is important for your mains writing, where you want to give an example of people doing exemplary work, where people are doing exceptional work, people are being inspirational. So whenever it comes, the question is related to environment, say, or maybe any essay related to environment, you can quote her. So you see, it can help you in your prelims as well as in your mains examination if you know such kind of examples. Now moving on to the question number 4. Now look at this question number 4 again from the syllabus of polity, and again in news these days. So the question is, as you see, the word which is highlighted here is your delimitation, and the question is, which of the following statements are not true with reference to the process of delimitation? Now this is a very important question because it has been in news, it will remain in news for a long time, so you should know the basics, and the options are more connected to basics. So let's see the options. A, delimitation is carried out by an independent delimitation commission appointed by Election Commission of India. B, the draft proposal of delimitation commission are published for public feedback. C, under Article 82, Parliament is to enact a delimitation act after every census. And D, in the history of the Indian Republic, delimitation commissions have been set up 4 times. Now again, it's a mix of factual thing and your general awareness about this particular topic, and you have to again answer which is not true, okay, which is incorrect. So these words are very important. Again, as I said, presence of mind is important. Whether the question is asking correct, incorrect, true, not true, keep underlining these things while you are solving your question. So यहाँ पे not true है. So let us see what is the answer for it. I hope you must have written it down, but still, let's see. So the answer here is A. That means the question was not true. So delimitation is carried out by independent delimitation commission appointed by the Election Commission of India. Now that should be a catch. Okay. Now when I read this question, I read it in a plain tone. Probably I would have stressed at Election Commission of India and would have given you a hint, but that is not the purpose here. So what is the answer here? The answer is A. That is the first statement is incorrect. The Election Commission of India recently said that it has begun the process of delimitation of assembly and parliamentary constituencies in Assam. So this particular line here is why is it in news? Okay, so the highlighted portion, it began the process of delimitation of assembly and parliamentary constituency in Assam. Now, what you have to remember also is that this process of delimitation will be based on the census data from 2001. Okay, so this is the year which you have to remember. They can play a trick there. The last delimitation of constituencies in Assam was done in 1976 on the basis of 1971 census. So though they might not ask you related to Assam, or maybe they can, you never know, it's the most unpredictable exam, but you should know that the process of the census right now will be based on the data from 2001. Now, what is delimitation? So it is an act of redrawing boundaries of Lok Sabha and state assembly seats to represent change in population. So जैसे जैसे आबादी बढ़ती है, obviously the size of the constituency also increase. Okay, so that process of redrawing the boundaries of Lok Sabha and state assembly is known as delimitation. And the main objective of delimitation is to provide equal representation to equal segment of population. तो पहले अगर population 100 लोगों की थी तो उसमें एक representative था. अब अगर 1000 हो गई तो obviously you need more representatives to represent that population, increased population. इसलिए delimitation की exercise becomes very important. So, and the next question which should come to your mind is that who carries out delimitation? So delimitation is carried out by Independent Delimitation Commission appointed by the Government of India under provision of Delimitation Commission Act. So this delimitation is appointed by this commission which is formed, is appointed by the government of India, and it is under the provision of Delimitation Act. So you should remember here, the government of India appoints this Delimitation Commission. So when we talk about, and let's go a little in detail, that Delimitation Commission is appointed by the President of India and works in collaboration of Election Commission of India. It is composed of the following. So who are the members of this Delimitation Commission? It becomes important. It's the retired Supreme Court judge, the Chief Election Commissioner of India, and the representative of state election commissioners. So these people come together to form a Delimitation Commission. The Delimitation Commission is to work without any executive influence. That is true. The Constitution mandates the Commission's orders are final and cannot be questioned before any court, as it would hold up an election indefinitely. So this point you have to remember, that executive influence nahi hona chahiye. Kyun? Because it is related to the process of election. The next question which should come to your mind is, how is a delimitation supposed to be carried out? So for that, Article 82, and you should note it down or underline it, Parliament is to enact a Delimitation Act after every census. Now, please hold on there. Note, it says after every census. Article 82 says कि after every census, Parliament को Delimitation Act जो है वो enact करना है. Once the act is in force, the Union government sets up the Delimitation Commission. Okay. So जब भी वो act force में आता है, Union government Delimitation Commission बना देती है. Now there is a point because of which I have mentioned this line, which you will understand a little later. The commission is supposed to determine the number and boundaries of constituencies in a way that the population of all seats so far as practicable is same. तो मोटा मोटी जैसे क्यों कमीशन बनाया जा रहा है वो यहाँ पे लिखा गया है, बताया जा रहा है कि बाउंड्रीज इस तरह से डिजाइन करनी है कि एक रिप्रेजेंटेशन हो, नंबर ऑफ सीट्स के हिसाब से हो. The commission is also tasked with identifying seats reserved for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So reservation of seats is an important part of the way the elections are done, the constituency. So ये भी जो task है वो भी this commission does. Now there is a draft proposal of the Delimitation Commission which goes also for the public feedback. Now this is an important, the participation of public, the participation of citizen. So the government or any organization or any kind of thing where citizen participation is necessary. And that is what is mentioned here, that the draft proposals of the Delimitation Commission are published for public feedback. The commission also holds public sittings. And after hearing the public, it considers the objections, the suggestions, and carried out changes. So you see how democratic is this commission. It is involving the public. It is public centric. It is citizen centric. And that's the beauty of our country, where such important decisions are taken by the involvement of the common man. The final order is published in the Gazette of India and the State Gazette concerned and comes into force on a date specified by the president. So president tells कि इस दिन से ये लागू होने वाला है, and that's how it is done. Now, quick few points about the delimitation exercise. In the history of the Indian Republic, delimitation commissions have been set up 4 times. Now, I'll ask you why this question is important, so just hear it carefully. So 4 times इसका setup हुआ है, and this was a part of our question also. 1952, 1963, 1973, and 2002. Under the acts of 1952, 1962, 1972, and 2002 respectively. There was no delimitation after 1981, 1991, and 2001 census. So remember, when we began with this particular topic, we said that after every census, there should be this exercise of delimitation. But this did not happen after 4 censuses. Now the question here is, why? There was no delimitation after 1981, 1991, and 2001 census. Why? This is a small point to ponder, and you will get an answer when you go back to your explained article of the Indian Express, and you must know every finer detail about it because it can appear in prelims as well as mains. And before I go to question number 5, It can also be asked in your interview, personality test, because this is a season of interviews. Many of you have given your mains examination. You will be appearing for the personality test. So a quick, revision of this topic will not do any wrong to you. You must go and revise this. Now let's see the question number 5 here. Now this question is not just for UPSC. This question is for every citizen who should know about FIRs, who should know what is a charge sheet. And there's a recent news which talks about what is a charge sheet and how is FIR different from a charge sheet. So with reference to charge sheet, consider the following statements. Number 1, like FIR or the first information report, it is defined in CRPC. Number 2, they are not public documents and enabling their free public access violates the provisions of Criminal Code of Procedure. So these are the 2 statements. You see, a lot of us would not know that FIR and charge sheet are 2 different things. In fact, their process is different. The way it is followed is different. Okay, so this is a very important information which you should know. So which of the statements are correct? So this is a no-brainer here, because it's not asking incorrect or not true. Simply, which of the statements are correct? A, only 1, B, only 2, C, both 1 and 2, and D, neither 1 nor 2. Now, I would suggest that you make a wild guess also for this, because you would remember this question and the answer of it if you make a wrong decision for this question. Because sometimes when you make a mistake, it helps you to remember the correct answer more. So try to answer for this question and see where do you stand, whether you know the difference between the FIR and the charge sheet or not. So let's go to the answer. The answer is B, that is statement 1 is incorrect. So the first statement is incorrect. Like FIR, charge sheet is defined in the CRPC. Now this can have various meanings, whether FIR is defined in the CRPC, whether charge sheet is defined in the CRPC, or they are defined somewhere else, or they are not defined at all. So, but it's an open-ended statement in that way. Now let us know about the charge sheet. So recently, why is it in news, is that the Supreme Court held that the charge sheets are not public document. Okay, and enabling their free public access violates the provision of Criminal Code of Procedures, which is CRPC, and it compromises the right of accused, victim, and the investigation agencies. So you should know that charge sheet is not a public document. You can't demand a charge sheet from anybody to just publish it anywhere, or to make it public. It is not, because it is a matter of your privacy, and it's a matter of your dignity for the individual who is just an accused, or maybe a victim of it, or maybe a part of the investigation. So not disclosing the identity or the information about that person. Therefore, charge sheet is not a public document. Okay, when I stress not, it should remain in your mind. It's not a public document. So before dismissing the PIL seeking directions to the public or investigating agencies like the ED or the CBI, a 2-judge bench of Justice M.R. Shah and Justice C.T. Ravi Kumar also cautioned against the possibility of misuse. So you see, misuse is in quotes, because of the misuse, that's why you cannot make it a public document, because again, as I said, it involves the person's dignity, it is his right of privacy, so a lot of things, and he's just an accused, or maybe he's a victim. So it should not be a public document because it can be misused. Now, coming to the question that what is a charge sheet? So a charge sheet is defined in section 173 of CRPC. So this is defined, alright, is the final report prepared by a police officer or investigative agencies after their investigation of the case. So when the investigation is done, a charge sheet is filed by the investigative agency or a police officer. This is defined in the CRPC. So you may not remember the section exactly, but as a well-informed citizen, you should. Section 173 of CRPC, it is defined. A charge sheet must be filed against the accused within a prescribed period of 60 to 90 days. How many of you know that? सो 60 to 90 days के बीच में ये प्रोसेस चार्जशीट फाइलिंग हो जाना चाहिए. Otherwise, the arrest is illegal and the accused is entitled to bail. Okay. Now, it just brings a reminder to me that a lot of you want to be probably an IPS officer. So you should know all these things before you go to the court. And the court asks you, well, you don't know these basic facts. So you should know about all these things, not only as a future IPS officers, but also as informed citizens. Now, there's a difference between the charge sheet and FIR. So I have summarized it here so that it's not difficult for you to just go into details. So the term charge sheet has been expressly defined under the section 173 of CRPC, but FIR has not been defined either in IPC or CRPC. So the most common word, which is FIR, is not defined. Instead, it finds a place under the police regulation rules under section 154 of CRPC. So directly it is not defined in CRPC, but it is defined only in the police regulation or rules, which deals with information in cognizable cases. Okay, so this is an important difference which you should know. So the other part here is that the charge sheet is the final report filed towards the end of an investigation. This part we have done. An FIR is filed at the first instant that the police is informed of a cognizable offense or offense for which one can be arrested without a warrant, such as rape, murder or kidnapping. तो इसको इस तरह से समझिए कि FIR जैसे ही कोई केस हुआ वैसे फाइल की जाती है. CRP, whereas charge sheet is done when the investigation is complete. Further, an FIR does not decide a person's guilt by a charge sheet. Is a complete with evidence. So what is this point telling you? That FIR से आपका दोष सिद्ध नहीं होता है. That is, your crime is not, you're not termed as guilty just on the basis of FIR. But charge sheet comes with a lot of evidence. It's a complete evidence document, is often used during the trial. So the court or the judge will ask the police officer, I need the charge sheet. Because the court knows that the charge sheet will be something with the evidence on which the judgment will be based. So purely on FIR, judgment is not based. Okay, the next important part which you should know is about the filing an FIR. This is just an overview information that after filing an FIR, the investigation takes place. Only if the police have sufficient evidence can the case be forwarded to the magistrate. Otherwise, the accused is released from the custody under section 169 of the CRPC. The law laid down by the Supreme Court in 1967 is Abhinanand Jha versus others versus Dinesh Mishra reiterates this. Now, the whole idea behind telling you this point was that you should know that this particular case relates to the charge sheet and the FIR issue, because the question can come that this case relates to what? And there are so many cases happening in the world today or in our country that you might get confused. So the whole idea of telling this point is that getting you aware about this particular case. So this is about the filing an FIR. We move to the charge sheet. Charge sheet is filed by the police or law enforcement investigative agency only after they have gathered sufficient evidence, as I have reiterated, against the accused in respect of the offense mentioned in the FIR. So FIR is the first document on the basis of which the charge sheet is filed. Otherwise, a cancellation report or untraced report can be filed when due to lack of evidence. तो FIR में evidence का कुछ लेना देना नहीं है, but charge sheet में evidence होनी चाहिए. If there is no evidence in the charge sheet, FIR is quashed. So this is about the charge sheet and FIR. I know sometimes we go in a little detail, but we need to go at times so that you retain the important points, and in the exams when you have a tricky option, you can relate with the knowledge you have gathered. Now let's go to question number 6. Now the question number 6 is about a report. You must have done it before, you must have read it a number of times. Let's see if you can recall. So which of the following statements are incorrect with regards to the annual status of education report 2022? It must remind you of various things we have done in the past. First statement is school enrollment has touched a record high. Proportion of girls enrolled in school has dropped across age groups. Proportion of children in government school has decreased. There is a drop in numeracy skills, but not as large as drop in reading skills. So you have to find the incorrect. Please make sure that you remember the incorrect word here. And your options are A, 1 only, B, 2 and 3, C, 4 only, D, 1 and 4 only. Now for the people who are coming to this report for the first time, or the question for the first time, would definitely find it a little tricky. But those who are revisiting this question for like second or third time, for them this is a quick game. So you have to find which of the following options are incorrect. Only 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 4 only. Please remember that there are statements which are straightforward, and the second important point you have to remember that there is no data or there are no figures or numbers mentioned here. It will just test your the relativity, whether it's increasing, decreasing, it's same as earlier. These kind of things it will test your knowledge. So if we come to the answers, and I'm sure you must have answered in your options, in your comment box. The answer here is B. Remember, we were talking about which of the statements is incorrect. So it says 2 and 3 only. Yani 2 and 3 are incorrect. Proportion of girls enrolled in school has dropped across age groups. So this is incorrect because there has been a rise in the enrollment of girls in the schools according to this report. And proportion of children in government schools have decreased. Again, this is one of the most important point of the report, where it says that the enrollment has increased. So, आप देख रहे हैं, there is a decreased word, there may be increased word, dropped word. So this is just a test. So you don't have to be trapped into digits or numbers. You should just know what is the relativity. Is it dropped or decreased or declined or increased? So this is what we are going to see in these questions. And a brief answer to is that according to the 17th the ASR report released in New Delhi, as the pandemic ebbed, students' enrollment touched a record high in 2022. So obviously, we can't say that it's declined. It's a record high, in fact. And you see that 98.4% ho gaya hai. Earlier, it was 97.2 in 2018, when the last full pre-pandemic survey was conducted. So because of the COVID years, the survey was not conducted on the fields. So it is now that this survey has been conducted for the 2022, and there is an increase, as you see. So again, the proportion of girls enrolled in the school have also increased in a way. And so again, I want to just mark you here that data is not that important, but you should know what is the effect total. Proportion of children in government school up from 2018 to 2022. Again, this is the point which we have to mention. So when we talk about this point, there has also been a drop in numeracy level. So there was a little trick in the question. So there is a drop in the numeracy level, but it is not as steep as for reading skills. Yani reading skills ka jo fall hai, wo bahut zyada hai in comparison to the numeracy level. So that you have to think why. Probably I think, ki maybe reading is not that important, but number is very important, isn't it, in your day-to-day life. So in the numeracy level उतना drop नहीं करेगा. बच्चों को थोड़ा बहुत तो numbers के बारे में पता होगा. But reading is not that important for people, for children. So it drops steep. So probably that could be a reason. Maybe an expert can talk more about it. When you read, like for example, the interview of the CEO of Pratham in the explain section, you will get definitely an answer for it. Now, the basic reading ability for children in class 3 dipped from 6.8% points and so and forth. Now, see, the reason I gave you this data is that sometimes we get afraid after seeing so much of numbers. That is what I have been telling you. You don't need to just go and dive into the numbers and start making notes. Just look at the trend, and that's all. Because even in your mains exam, you will not be able to reproduce as much as it's written here. You just need to know what has decreased, what has increased, and probably why so. So that's what you have to know. Now let's come to the question number 7. This question number 7 is an interesting question. It may be easy for a lot of you. And from the next time, I would also talk about the difficulty levels of the questions. Maybe that will help you to judge your preparation in a better way. This, according to me, is not a very difficult question. If you are interested in international relations or even not, you should know about this term, the wolf warrior diplomacy. So often seen in news, wolf warrior diplomacy is connected with which of the country? Is it United States? Is it China? Is it Russia? Or is it a country, India? Now, if you even don't know about this term, the basic instinct is that wolf warrior, it doesn't relate to India, if you know the way we do our diplomatic actions. Okay. And this name wolf warrior is very foreigner in the sense. So obviously you can eliminate India if you want to make a wild guess. But then, is it United States, China, Russia, what? So this is a very important question from the perspective of international relations. Let's see. But before that, try to give your answer in your comment box. United States, China, Russia, or India. Let's see what is the answer. The answer here is B. And B, like most of you must have guessed it right, is China. So when you hear the term wolf warrior diplomacy, connect it with China. Okay, so there was this very interesting explained article that is China pivoting away or moving away from the wolf warrior diplomacy. So I would suggest you that you go through this article. You would know what is changing in China's course of action, or maybe not, and how is it going to affect its relation with India and the subcontinent or US. That is what you should know. So this term basically gained popularity when the president of China talked about wolf warrior diplomacy as a tactic for the Chinese government to extend its ideology beyond China and counter the West and defend itself. तो एक ऐसी डिप्लोमेसी है जिसमें चाइना जो है अपनी आइडियोलॉजी को अपने बाउंड्री से बाहर ले जाता है in order to defend itself, its move, and to counter the West. So it is an unofficial term for the more aggressive and confrontational style of communication that Chinese diplomats have taken to it in the last decade. So maybe you can discuss among your groups or maybe in the chat box that what is it about? What is it about? Do you know some interesting fact about this wolf warrior diplomacy? Let us know, let me know, and let your fellow aspirants know about it. Do read this article. You can also go in the archives of the Indian Express to know about this term more. Though this is unofficial, but it is an important term to know. So these were like 7 sets of questions. We will do quiz every week, and I'll take up the questions which are very current, or maybe questions from the year before, because the cycle of UPSC civil service examination runs almost 1.5 years. So you can the news remain current for 1.5 years. So I would bring up questions from the past months, and so that it can help you in revisions. Remember, the prelims are approaching, and the prelims of the next year is also not very far. Looking at the scale of the syllabus and the amount of studies you have to do. So we'll come to the quiz next week also. We'll bring a new set of questions. But before going, let's just quickly talk about and get inspired by this governance award, by the governance award of the Indian Express, which is given to the IAS officers or the district collectors or the district magistrates for their great work. And why I'm saying is for 2 reasons. First, we all need to get inspired. Second, because you need to give good examples in your essays, in your ethics, maybe in your personality test, that how an IAS officers on the field, they perform and they get things executed. We are talking about the Think Bee project, and we are going to relate it, or we are going to talk about IAS Rajat Bansal, who kind of executed the Think Bee project in a most effective manner, and for what he got, or he received, the Indian Express Excellence in Governance Award, which was held recently. What inspired you for this project?
For this project, when I joined Bastar, so this was the first time when I was working in the Bastar area. So Bastar, as you know, is known for all the negative things. But it was COVID, peak of COVID when I joined it. So I had some time in store to actually go around and define my own priorities, and that was the peak of lockdown. So I discovered that Bastar has a lot of resources. It's actually rich rather than being just an aspirational district in one of the poorest areas in terms of all the indicators that you talk about. There are a lot of resources within Bastar. The problem is the exploitation, the nature of exploitation. Either they are not properly exploited, overexploited, or they are exploited by others. So the value addition which is happening outside Bastar. So Bastar is not getting its due. So that's when we also spoke about, and we also met a lot of people who have worked in Bastar. And since I said it was lockdown, so it was very interesting to meet a lot of people who were working in MNCs, who were very highly placed in different places abroad also, and they had to all come back to Bastar. So that was an interesting time. So when we actually had a meeting of this, what can we do together as a part of a community, and a lot of them started talking about startups and how they would any day leave their corporate job and come back and do something for Bastar using Bastar's resources. So that's where the idea came up. We started doing it once the lockdown was a little more relaxed, and that's where the startup, because usually startup based projects are taken up either by the state government or by the central government. So usually district does not get into all that. So it needs a lot of resources. But since Bastar had resources and we had support from the state government and central government, so we started this. And the response that we got was amazing. A lot of people actually left their jobs, came down. So for example, very interesting ideas as to how to market Bastar as a tourism hub. So once the locals started doing it, so a lot of things which the government could not do started happening.
Okay. Can you tell me about the biggest challenge while implementing this project?
The challenge was the initial, there is always an inertia. So, because as a government machinery, we are not meant to promote business, in the sense that there is always this handicap, maybe intellectual handicap or propaganda-based handicap, that we always, private ventures, we that's not our first, priority. So that was the biggest one. So making my subordinates, my colleagues understand that what we are making them believe in this, and then actually starting that pilot, getting colleges like Tata Institute, HNLU, and big colleges on board, making them come to Bastar. So because Bastar was new, people usually think of it as a very unsafe place, and once they came in, then their eyes got opened, and then they started helping us. So that was the initial reluctance phase. A lot of people ask about the challenge from the LWE sector. So, but the LWE sector was not much of an issue because we were empowering the locals to work for the locals. So had we started doing things, had we started promoting tourism, there would have been a backlash. But since the locals were doing it, since the communities themselves understood how to, what is the benefit out of tourism and everything, so there was no backlash from that angle.
Can you tell me, like, a lot of civil services aspirants are watching this. So what is the message that you want to give to the aspirants who want to become an IAS officer? Why do I become an IAS officer?
We often say that, this service can mean different things to different people. But I could just talk about my personal journey, and I cleared the exam in the first attempt as an IPS, then I cleared it in the second attempt as an IAS in Chhattisgarh cadre. So that was the time when I was deeply motivated about, especially about the issues related to violence within the country. So when I used to read about LWE, when I used to read about Naxal problems, so it was always this thing that why can't we solve it from the developmental perspective? These are our own people. And I used to read a lot that time. So I actually left my job abroad and started doing into it. So I think, looking back, I think that drove me a lot to actually work for the people, and the kind of work that we could do in Bastar despite the lockdown, despite everything else, was because, once you go with that outlook, you try to join people. You try to bring people on board, and so you don't want to be the Shasak. You don't want to be the person or to actually give the top-down instruction. You want to collaborate with them and you want to work with them. And that actually helped us do a lot more initiatives in Bastar and actually transform it.
Now, a quick rapid fire with you, since it's so much in fashion these days. Who has been your role model?
My father.
Most important value for a civil servant?
Integrity.
Describe in one word your feeling after receiving this award.
Joy.
What is your hobby, like in your free time? What do you like to do?
Music.
What is your philosophy of life?
Live and let live.
And finally, why do you think IAS officers can do something for the growth of the country?
I think IAS offers a job which functionally gives you the maximum amount of capacity to give an impact. And when I say that, I talk globally. So IAS is an opportunity which, in terms of impact, you'll never get a job like that, ever.
So just giving you a brief of what this award was for. So Think Be and IAS Rajat Bansal, we're going to talk about it a little bit. So in the district of Bastar, now Bastar, is one of the most backward district of the country, also because it is affected by the left-wing extremism. So the youth of this district have traditionally struggled for employment opportunities, and that is majorly because the problem of the LWE or the left-wing extremism in this the backward district of Bastar. Now, if in this district reaches a good IAS officer with a vision to bring some changes, things like Think Be happen, which was done by Rajat Bansal. So what did he do in 2021? The district administration launched Think Be, a Bastar-based startup incubator that promises to mentor the district's youth and encourage them to come up with out-of-box entrepreneurial ideas. So imagine in a district where there is always a struggle for employment, but there is a talent. You need somebody to recognize the talent, and that's what happened here, where youth were encouraged to come up with entrepreneurial ideas. Since its launch, Think Be has coached 2 batches of promising young entrepreneurs and held more than 10 outreach programs in schools, colleges, and across the district. So from a district which is seen as a backward area, where there is a problem of unemployment, which is seen as a district hit by left-wing extremism, to something innovative, and which led to led to the IAS officer Rajat Bansal and Think Be get an award at the Indian Express Governance Award. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the quiz, you learned something useful, and also got inspired from the Think Be or IAS Rajat Bansal's case study. That's all. Let's meet the next time with the issues or key terms and also the quiz. As I always say, think smart, work hard, conquer your goal.